Hello friends, how you doing today? Welcome to my channel. This is Sherry, and come on into my craft room. I'll show you what I'm doing today. I am working on these little mini playing card box covered journals, and so I told you the plan was to do one, bind one, sew in the signatures, and then I'd come back and show you how I did it on the other one because I'm making two, right? So I went ahead and did do that. I stuck with the plan, no detours so far. But here's the I did 3 signatures. We did the 3. We did a video on the cover, then we did a video on making the pages and making 3 signatures and getting those together. So here that it is sewn in. We use wax cord. I made a little closure here, and I'll show you that in a second, but let me just show you the insides now. They're all sewn in. Here's the middle. I just had little strings hanging from binding them on all 3. So they are bound. And then I did a little closure here on this one, and I'll show you how I did this, but it just it's elastic cord, and you pull on it and then wrap it around this little button right here. It's tight, but you can just push this little elastic cord under the button. So she says. But there we go. Yeah, let me just pull it to where it's supposed to be. Like that. I have a knot right here under. You could put the knot wherever you want when you put it under the button, but I put it right here. You could put it out here if you want. I just kind of like it under there. And then I added 2 pieces of playing cards here as like little decorations on these strings on the closure. And I'll show you how I did these too. They're not complicated, but I did have to figure a couple logistics out on those. So yeah, so let's get started without delay so we can maybe get through the binding and the little closure there on this video. So here's my 3 signatures. And so, I kind of do it like this for all my journals, but usually on bigger journals I'll do a 5 pamphlet stitch just for security, really. And so since this is just a little one, really I shouldn't do 3 pamphlet, but that's what I'm doing. I should just like do 2 and be happy, but I wanted to make sure that it was secure. So overkill is 3 is overkill, but that's what I'm going to do. So this has this plaid fabric in here. So I'm going to look and see. I don't know if this is repeatable. Like, this is how I do it. So if you can repeat my whatever I'm doing here, that's great. So what I do is if it was a bigger journal, I'd measure, like if it was a 1 inch or anything like that. But since this is just a little thing, I'm going to make a couple of marks here, and where the middle of this is. I'm looking at it right now. I think I'm going to go for it right now. Make a mark where I think the middle is. I guess I could measure, but I'm just going to make a little mark right there. And also I could do it on this side, but I don't want any marks out here. So I kind of play this by ear. I do need the marks though, because you'll see why in a second. Okay, let me go ahead and measure. I didn't measure the other one, but it is, see, it's a little bit hard to measure on this. This is only about 1/2 inch. This is a 1/2 inch spine on this one. So if you want to find the middle, just take you want to measure, you want to make sure you don't go over where the book bends, right? So here's my 1/2 inch. Okay, in the middle of the 1/2 inch is, so here's my 1/2 inch mark right here. And I'm going to count in, so this is my 1/2 inch. See, it almost doesn't look right from here, but I just measured it, so it has to be right? But okay, I'm going to go in 1 notch, just to do it really slowly here. 1 notch, and then like the longer notches, the centimeter notches. Okay, there's my 1/2 inch. That's 2 centimeters. Then you go in the middle of that, 1 centimeter would be in the middle. So this, according to the ruler, this is the middle right there. Make a little mark with this black, fine tip Sharpie. Okay, so let me bend it and see what it looks like. Do I think that is the middle? Yeah, it does look like the middle. It does look like the middle. Okay, so I've got that one. Now I'm kind of like going down and going to eyeball the middle here. Like I'm not going to measure this. I'm just going to eyeball it. So let me see if I think the middle is about, actually I have a little dot there. I don't know what that is. I didn't make a dot there. Okay. Maybe that's from when I was cutting the paper. Anyway, just say that does look like the middle. So I'm going to go straight over and about right here. And I am going to take my little ruler and just measure a straight line. And I have lines on this fabric, so that helps too. But I'm going to put another little dot right there where I think the middle is. Okay, and it's lined up. I'm lining it up with this here so I have a straight line. And if your fabric lines are straight, you can line it with that too. And I'm going to make another one down here. And I actually think, let me look at this one as an example. You can see how far I started down and down from the top and up from the bottom, probably about a 1/4 inch. And that's a little high there, so I'm going to actually make another mark below that just to not start that high. I just was trying to get the center there. And this will be covered up, so, and then another 1/4 inch up on the bottom here. Okay, so that's my center. Now, I always start with I like to start with the last signature first. So let me grab that out of our signatures here. Oops, get back in there. Okay, so I have my little signature here. And I'm going to put some paper clips on here to keep this together. Yeah, everything's in here. My paper clips are right here, and I kind of like to put one on the top. This is the way I do it most of the time, kind of just play it by ear really, but this will keep these together. And then I'm going to make, this is how I do it, I'm going to make some little marks here on my paper to see where I need to punch my holes. And I just put my paper in here, my little signature where I want it, from the top and the bottom, up a little bit, down a little bit, and like that. So now I have those, I don't have more than 3 marks here. So I'm making, matching those 3 marks up to my signature, and I'm making a little tiny mark on my signature here with my little marker again, my fine tip marker. Okay, like that. And then I'm going to go ahead at this point, I think, and punch my holes. So I have the middle mark, and let me look at the outside of this. I have, so if my middle is right here, I have this little red part is a little off center, so I can't really go by that. On the other one, let me show you. I had the perfect little centering. See this one, this red part here, this is perfectly in the center. And there was a line here. There's a line here, a little kind of like border line or on the inside of this red. So I kind of lined my holes up with that line, this line, and then I had the middle one. So this is a little different here. So let's see, the back one is here. So I want it like outside of this red line here. Okay, so let me go ahead and punch my middle holes. I think that would be good. See, I'm playing this by ear. I'm not like saying this is how I do it exactly like this every time. I'm just kind of going with what works with this little journal, but I do something similar to this each time. Okay, and then, so there's my holes that are going to be the middle signature. Okay, so now I can see those from the outside. Okay. And these boxes really, sometimes when you use fabric and things on your spines, it's hard to see the holes, but this did make it really easy because I can see the holes really easy through this little spine. So now I'm going to go ahead and punch my holes for my back spine here. I mean my back signature, my 3rd signature. I'm going to go, see this is about like that. I'm going to go about like right here, just outside of that red. And put it right beside. Don't poke your finger. Be careful. I have a very sharp and thin awl that I use this one here because I like little tiny holes. Okay, again, here's my middle hole that I just punched. I'm going to punch a hole right here, just outside of that, like I did up here. And I do a lot of eyeballing, so that's why I usually don't show certain things on video, like this type of thing, because, like I said, it might be hard to repeat, because I don't use a template. This is how I do it. So I'm just punching my middle holes again. Okay. Now I can go ahead and punch here, but I'm going to wait on that one. I'm going to wait on the front signature. So let's go ahead and get our back signature in. Okay, so I have, I used doll needles. And again, these are what I like, what I have been using for a good while now. And I like them because they are sharp and they are thin. That's what I like. You know, everybody has their own way of doing things. So, and I'm going to measure my little cord here, my wax cord. So I'm going to measure 3 lengths, one of the book, you know, the book I'm binding. I do this with all the journals, 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to leave just a little extra because I don't want to be like, you know, I won't be short, but I want to make sure I'm not short. So a little extra even. And I'm going to thread my needle. And I got my doll needles. I just got a little pack of they're called doll needles, and I got them at Walmart. And I'm sure they have them on Amazon too. So let me get that in there. And then we're going to go ahead and bind. This is, let's see, where's my third signature? Right here. So I've got those marks. So what I do at this point, let me put my lid on here so this doesn't dry out. I take my little awl. See, and if you had a bigger awl, punching holes, in this little, you know, bit of paper here, you'd have like, I don't know. I used to use a bigger awl. That's how I know you're going to have some giant holes in here. And I don't like giant holes. I like little holes. So that it just, I think it helps. For me, it seems like it helps everything be tighter. You know what I mean? I don't know. It works for me. And everybody's got to do what works for them, right? So I'm just doing what works for me. There's my 3 holes. Easy as that. No template. And then I just start with and there's different ways to do this 3 pamphlet stitch here too. So this is the way I've been doing it for a good while now, and I didn't start out this way. I started out with a different stitch, but learned this one after a little while, and I've been sticking with this one. Works good for me too. So just pull it through, and don't let your string go through. You can put it up under your paper clip, or some people I've seen use washi tape, or some people just hold on to it, you know, whatever works for me, for you. And this is, you know, usually I don't even put it under there. I just let it hang, but for the video's sake, I'll put it under there. So maybe that'll help me not to pull it through. And then we're going to go through this top hole. So I went through the middle, out through the middle, and I'm going to go up through the top one here. And make sure this is looking right. Make sure it's not too high. I don't think it is. It's right up to the top, though. I don't know if I like it that high. It's right up to the top. I think it's all right, but it's a little higher than I wanted it, but it'll be all right. I think it'll be all right. Yeah, it should be all right. The time to fix it is now if I didn't like it. So let me see. Let me look at it real quick. Because I could. You know what it is? Just, I think this page is a little higher. Let me look here. Yeah, this white page is a little higher. I think it'll be all right, though, in the long run. I can always cut it off later. You can cut it off later if you get a page that's too high. I have done that once or twice. And you can't really, if you cut it off nice, you can't tell. So you see this string that we have here, our little tail. I've been on this right now. I've been going under it, and you don't want to split it. So you kind of like I've pulled it up and then just put my needle in under it, and there it comes out through the spine. And then I'm going to go back in down here and go in to our bottom hole in our spine and our bottom hole in our little signature. Get it in there. There we go. All right. Now, okay, make sure everything's tight, lined up. If you don't like how it is right now, tighten it up, pull everything tight. And if you don't like how it is, start over. But this looks good. So I'm going to go now up through over in here, through there, and I'm going to see how it looks at this point, if it's looking like how I want it. Okay, and if it is, if everything looks right, okay, yeah, it looks good. It looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tie it. It looks tight, and it looks straight, and it looks good. Doesn't look like I pierced my cording or anything. So you can tie 2 knots or 1 knot, depending. Like, I'm kind of trying to tie 1 knot here because these journals are so small and I don't want to create bulk just from a knot, but I'm going to go ahead and tie, for argument's sake, go ahead and tie, for security's sake, I guess I should say, go ahead and tie 2 knots so you can see how that looks. And that second knot can be always, and see, I had extra there, so I really didn't need that extra that I pulled out, but just to be careful. Okay, so that's our first signature, and I'm going to do the other 2 just like that, just like that. Okay, did it end up being too high? No, it didn't. Okay, I'm okay. It's not coming up over. So I was okay. I just, you know, it's, you get kind of paranoid when you're on video that things are going to turn out wrong, right? But they are fixable. Okay, so I'm going to go and sew in the other 2 signatures off video so that we can have time to do the closure today. So I'll be right back. Okay, I finished the last signature here. Didn't take too long. I wanted to show you one thing that I've been doing after I get the signature in there. You see how it's kind of open like that? I flattened out the book cover and folded over my signature and kind of just did like this, kind of folded it down. And same thing with the back of that signature that I'm working, just put in, kind of folded it down like that. You know, this is my book cover and everything flattened out. Just kind of folded it down so it kind of stops you wanting to open up like that. So that's all our signatures are in there. This is how it turned out. You can see down in there how they look, nicely spaced and everything. And here's the little signature strings on the outside, all nice and straight and spaced apart. They look right to me. And then so now I'm going to show you how I did that closure on the other one. So all I did, let me see, let me open this one up because I think my pocket looks different on this one. Yeah, my pocket's a little, see the pocket on this one, it's a little lower, and the pocket on this one's a little higher. So I'm going to have to be careful because I don't want to really don't want to involve my pocket in the closure. But all I did was I used my crocodile. If you don't have a crocodile, you could use your awl to make a hole, you know, so you can make a smaller hole than a regular hole punch. But I'm going to make 2 holes here, kind of like right in the center right here. And these are going to be closer together because I have my pocket is higher. So I'm going to take my little hole punch here. I'm going to make this one as close as I can to my pocket. So let's do that. And I don't want to get my, I'm not punching my sewing here, so I'm going over my sewing and then punching a hole. So this one's going to be about, again, I'm eyeballing, not measuring or anything, you know. So about right there. I do it quicker when I'm not on video. It's like I have to feel like I have to be more careful when I'm on video for some reason. But there's my 2 holes. Okay, so then I just took some elastic, you know, this is just elastic cording, and I just put it through. Let's see, what did I do? I started on the, I just put it through. I'm trying to see if I started on the outside or the inside. My knot, I have a knot here. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, I don't think. Yeah, I must have started on the outside here and then put it through. It's like when I was doing, I was thinking about it, but not as much as I do on video, because now I'm trying to explain what I'm doing and you have to think about it a little bit more, if that makes sense. But so we put it through there. Okay, and then we bring it around because this is going to be our little closure here. And then we're going to put it here. I guess I didn't really have to do that yet. Let me show you how I did the little button. So I have these little buttons that I got at Michael's. They're by Recollections. They're metal buttons, and there's little heart shapes, little flower shapes. Let me see if you can see it without the glare. But there's round ones, flower hearts, you know, gold, bronze, silver. And I picked out, let's see, where is it? This bronze one. I put a bronze one on this one because these are kind of vintagey looking. And I mean, they are vintage boxes. And so this, I tried the other ones. Like I kind of wanted to use a silver, but it just didn't look right with the more vintagey cover, you know, little boxes here. So what I did to put the button on, super simple, but I'm just going to show you real quick and try to get this done in my allotted time here. In fact, I didn't turn back on my timer when I restarted the video here. But yeah, I just put a little bit of, just to hold this in place so I don't have to hold it while I'm trying to sew it. Just a tiny, tiny dab of Fabri-Tac. And I put my holes, you can put your holes any way you want. I put them up and down. So I put that down like where I think the middle is, and where, you know, kind of look at your holes in the back, because you want it to, you want your elastic to wrap around and then wrap around the hole. So kind of put it right where the holes are in the back, in the center of those holes. So you can kind of look and see how it wraps around. Here's my holes, and then the elastic cording is going to wrap around like that. Okay, so now it's glued down. It's not dry or anything. I'm not even letting it dry. I just need something to hold it on there while I'm trying to sew, right? So then I took my awl, and you can flatten it out like this if you want, either way, but I poked little holes through here with my awl to get it started for sewing this on. So, because I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to be able to get my needle through there. So just poke a little hole through your little holes here in your button. And then I just took, I already have a needle threaded here, and sewed on my button. So I just came up through the bottom. Here I can see my holes. You can see the holes there very clearly. And just sewed on the button. So I have a knot tied. This is double thread, just like when you sew on a button on anything else, on a piece of clothing. A double piece of thread with a knot tied in the bottom. And I'm just going to go and sew this on. I went through, you know, probably 4 or 5 times around, not getting crazy with it, but enough to keep the button on. Make sure I don't pull my knot through, because I do have a double knot on the bottom, but I can still probably pull it through if I pull too hard. And then, so I'm going to do that off video, because I think everybody knows how to sew a button. I'll show you how I tie it off in the back though, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I did about 6 times around, and I'm just going to tie it off in the back by making a little knot by running through the stitches that I have there. And you know, then you run your needle back through that loop and pull it tight. And you can do that a couple times, so it makes kind of like a double knot. And then you don't have to worry about it. Try not to, my needle's trying to go through my stitching on the outside of the, you know, book there. The little, you know, cover stitching. Okay, so I've got a double knot now. I'm going to cut this off. I have my knot here that I started with too. The knot should be down there, but you've got to, you know, down there to the where you started. So you should be able to cut this piece off and just have a nice, you see the stitching, but it looks, you know, it doesn't look messy or anything. So I don't mind seeing a little stitching there. Get my thread off there. Okay, see, it's just a little stitching mark there, which doesn't take up any room. And you could actually put something over it if you know, when you're decorating or whatever. When by the time you put a tag in here, it will be covered up, probably. So just say that's a tag. So it's, you know, it's not a big deal to me. So let's do our quick little closure here, because this could take a minute for me to show you what I did here. So let's get this going. Again, we're going to put our thread, our elastic cording through here, and I get a piece that is longer than I need. Okay, so not too big though, I don't want to waste it. You know what I mean? So yeah, not too big. We really don't need that big of a loop, but you got to tie a knot in the front and have enough for that, and you don't want it to be too short when you tie your knot. So see, it's going to wrap around our sewn on button now, and again, it's tight, but you can push it under there. Push it under there, and then so go ahead and push it under there and tie yourself a little knot right here. So you don't want this too stretchy, like, because I don't want it messing up my, you know, where it's pulling too tight here. And then also, if your little book gets wider, you want room for it to expand. So I'm not really pulling it tight at this point. I'm just pulling it so that it is not, there's no extra kind of too much, you know, looseness in the wax cord. So I'm going to tie a little knot here about where I think my knot would be when I'm done. Now again, not making it too tight, but also leaving looseness for this little journal to expand. And you can always redo these knots too. You can untie it and loosen it, because there's going to be a little bit of extra here. You know, as far as like even this right here, a little bit of extra. Actually, that's not even long enough. Let me make that longer. Let me make that a little longer. This is the time to do it because I want to add something to the string. So if you want to add something, if you don't want to add anything to the string, you don't need it to be any longer. But yeah, I want it a little longer because I know what I did with the other one. Okay, I'm going to go pull it out more than I need now. It's probably way more than I need, but I just want to make sure I have enough for what I want to tie onto the string. Okay, let's do that again. Tie our little knot, and I just did one knot here, and that makes it, well, I mean, you could do 2 knots if you wanted, but I don't really think it's necessary. Okay, so, well, let me see. Let me look at my thing here. I might be telling you wrong. Did I tie a knot? I think you have to tie 2 knots here to get it to stay. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to stay with just 1 knot. Yeah. See, when you're not on video, you don't think about these things. You just do it. And then when you're on video explaining it, you're like, oh yeah. Okay, so there's my 2 knots. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut some of this off. It's like I said, it's way too much, but there you go. So you can see now the closure. See how it is. See, it's on there. And the button is sewn on now, besides that little bit of glue that's on there. It's really not the glue that's holding it on, it's the sewing. So there we go. So that's what I did, and then I made a real quick, I'm going to show you. I might not have time to do it all on video right now, but I made these 2 little pieces, and they're super easy to make, but the hard part was rounding the corners. So I just cut 2 little pieces out of a playing card. Here's the one I was using, just a little playing card. So I just cut a piece out. You can cut it if you want to cut it on your cutting board, you can. And I was doing that, but it's so little, it's hard to even cut it on a cutting board. Just cut the size you want. You know, you can cut it bigger, smaller if you want to do this. And then the problem is rounding the corner. So I tried my regular corner rounder, this one, but you can't get it in there to round the corners. So I happen to have, you can do it with your scissors, but I happen to have a little mini envelope punch board. And so I tried this one. It worked out perfect. It has a little corner rounder here. So I rounded the corners that way. And so that's another easy thing, part of this little thing right here to make this. And then I wanted some little holes in there. So I just figured out where I wanted my hole. Say I want it to go on one of these strings. Maybe I'm going to put it on this one. And I want the holes over here. So I just punched a hole like this with my awl in this this is the same way you can punch a hole in anything. If you just want a little hole and you don't have a crocodile, you can punch it with your awl. And see, I just made a tiny hole there. And for the elastic cord to fit through this, I did have to like put my, and do like this, you know. And if you're going to put it through the front, it's good because to do it this way, front down and through the back, I'm going to call this the front, and then you have a nice smooth hole. If you're going to put it through the back, then do the opposite so that you have a nice smooth hole this way, because it kind of pokes through here and you have a little bit of roughness from the card being punched out there. It's the hole is, you know, where the extra paper is. It's kind of like right on the back part there where it's sticking out. So just do the opposite if you want to. And if you change your mind, you can kind of like tuck in this little, you know, bit and kind of go like that. And you have a nice smooth hole. And I made it a little bit bigger for this wax cord to fit through. And so it's like a little charm is what I'm making here. So let's see if I can get this through here. See, it just fit right through. If your wax cord is a little rough on the end, you might have to cut a piece off with your scissors to get a nice smooth end there, so you can get it through a tiny hole like that. But this is way too long, so I'm going to cut it. Let me make my knot. Let me make how long I want it. The other one wasn't too long, so about right there maybe. And so I'll tie a knot right here. And push that up and make a little knot right here. See, I've got plenty on here to tie my knots now. If I want knots, wherever I want knots, I've got plenty of elastic cording. If you make it too short, it makes it really hard to tie these little knots, believe me. I've done it before. So there you go. Then you pull your little playing card charm down to wherever. On this one, so I did that on one of them, one hole, and it hangs like a little charm. Let's cut this off so you can see. And then I did on the other one, that one just hangs. It will hang. Pull it down, it'll hang. And then the other one I did on here, see, I've got one with one hole hanging. And see the shape I made on that one. So you can make them any shape you want. This one's a little rectangle, this one's a little square. And this one I put 2 holes in and ran it through the 2 holes. So see, I don't know if you can see that really clearly. It's so small, but I've got 2 holes there. So I ran it through back to front and then back, you know, front to back, and tied a little knot right there. So it can be kind of, they both slip up and down anywhere you want it on the little string. And so that is it. That's the binding of the signatures in these little journals and the closure. And you get the picture. So next is adding ephemera